Welcome to this 29th episode of the MIC Symposium series. Today's episode is Ride with Us, building our industry, building our community together. We're hoping to hear from you today in the form of your questions for our panelists, so please submit yours using the webinar control panel. Our audience question wrangler today is Andrea Yu, the Vice President of Communications for the Motorcycle Industry Council and the Motorcycle Safety Foundation. Andrea will be pitching your questions to our panelists. Okay, it's time to meet our moderator, Lorette Nickel. Lorette is the producer, host, and reporter for, among other properties, Formula One, Formula Drift, Mecum Auctions, and the AMA Hall of Fame. Welcome, Lorette.
Hello, everyone. Lee, thank you so much for that introduction. And everyone, welcome to this MIC Symposium, Ride with Us, building our industry, building our community together. It is my honor, and I am so excited to introduce our panelists. Our three esteemed panelists are Andre Albert, we have Steve Bontempo, and we have Corey Eastman. Hello, gentlemen, welcome. So excited to have all three of you here. And Andre, I'd like to start with you. I'd love to discuss what your role is.
Sure thing. Morning, everybody. My name is Andre Albert from the Motorcycle Industry Council. My title, Director of Market Expansion and Events. And what that looks like in the real world on a trade side, I work on putting together AIM Expo, the trade show that just happened in Anaheim. And on a consumer-facing side, I head up the market expansion initiative called Ride With Us, which is largely what we're here to talk about this morning.
Amazing. And Steve, tell us about your role.
Yeah, I'm the president of Revzilla and J&T Cycles, and I'm the chief marketing officer of the Komodo brands. Komodo brands include those two I mentioned, as well as Cycle Gear, which is 170 brick and mortar stores, and Rever, which is our ride tracking and planning app. I've been with Komodo for about 7 years now.
And Corey?
Hi, I am Corey Eastman. I'm with Motorcycle Safety Foundation, Director of Rider Education Expansion. So I work across all of those different elements, from generating awareness about rider training to our over 2,000 ranges across the country, our 6,000 coaches, all of those things, sort of trying to bring that to more people that are curious about how you get into motorcycling and how you become a rider.
Amazing. Thank you, gentlemen. And I'm so excited to talk about the Ride With Us program. And Andre, can you tell us about that?
Yes, all right. The Ride With Us program is the Motorcycle Industry Council's market expansion program, which is designed to get more riders riding more. So this actually dates back to before COVID. The industry was working out, okay, well, how do we work on ridership? And Larry Little, a name synonymous with our industry, started a research program to find out a few things, like what is the culture code to motorcycling, what some of the hurdles may be, and also landed on what you see in front of you now, the 4 stages to becoming a motorcyclist. So under the brand Ride With Us, we work on executing tactics within these 4 buckets, starting with inspire. So I'm a firm believer that obviously motorcycling is super cool. It's not hard to get people who want to do what we do. So if we can inspire people enough, they will start to then remove the hurdles on their own, hopefully. However, we then move on to our explore zone, which is also then again designed to kind of smoothen out the hurdles as you go by providing resources, which is our ridewithus.com website. So on that site, it's designed for a new rider to be able to Google, hopefully we pop up near the top, and they can jump in there and be like, okay, well, what are the different kinds of bikes? What are the different kinds of adventures I can go on? And there's some guides in there about getting trained, both off-road, if you're a racer with the USMCA, it's also on-road as well as the MSF, everything Corey does. So it's a bunch of resources that gives them the answers to questions they may have had once they become inspired, and helps them through that exploration phase. And I've experienced this in other pastimes that I've personally pursued. A lack of information can sometimes hold up your enthusiasm. So we're hoping to provide enough information to not put a stop to any enthusiasm we created in the inspire phase. We then move on to the engage phase, and this is where it gets super exciting. This is hands on handlebars and feet on pegs, and Ride With Us pilot tested a program alongside a bunch of other events like Overland Expo for the last number of years, where we removed all the hurdles. We gave people the range, the bikes, the gears, and the coaches, so that there were no hurdles left other than the one in their brain to say, I'm going to try this thing, to see what would happen. And it was truly, I feel like I was watching people's lives change. Part of what Larry uncovered in his research was the culture code to motorcycling can be deemed as personal sovereignty. So it's this feeling of being a master of your own destiny, an empowered individual, kind of a bit of a badass. And when we saw people come off the range, having just done what they've done, which is like a 20-minute experience, going from never touched a motorcycle to feet on pegs, riding around a range, like their posture changed. They spoke with confidence. They were just beaming this idea of personal sovereignty. So that pilot test program under the Moto Intro experience was an absolute hit. We then hit the hurdle of, well, how do we scale this up? And it's since been renamed as Ride Day and moved over to Corey and the MSF, who obviously have access to a lot of trainers, a lot of ranges, and truly have the ability to scale the program. And Steve and the Komodo crew are bringing the Ride Day to a bunch of their stores this year, because they ran a pilot test of it last year too, and it seemed that it was very successful. So that's a way in which we're trying to engage more people. And then lastly, the 4 stages integrate. So I have heard it said once before that the motorcycle industry doesn't necessarily have an inspiration problem, because what we do is super cool and everyone wants to do it. We may have an integration problem. And a great example of this was kind of like the COVID era, where the issue went from selling motorcycles to keeping people riding them. So integration is a key component to keeping the community strong. And that's events like at dealerships, that's different ride days, like Babes Ride Out's a killer integration event where people get to come be with their community and integrate immediately. So we try and connect the dots for these people who've gone through the phases to make sure that once they're in, they stay in. So that's the Ride With Us program in a nutshell.
Okay, well, obviously the Ride With Us program is life-changing. I wanted to get your opinion, Andre, on why market expansion is so important.
Sure. I mean, the short answer is it creates a healthy industry. And now there's obviously a lot of different things that go inside of that. We are an enthusiast market. We're all enthusiasts. As far as we're concerned, we have the greatest jobs in the world. And there's the other component of that is when people come into our world and want to talk about the things that we do, we get excited. Oh, have you seen this new part? Have you seen this new ride? And all that kind of thing. So it's a 2-part thing for me. Is one, it gives us a strong community that keeps us engaged and keeps us thriving. That then plays into a healthy industry so that we get to keep doing what we're doing. And it creates opportunity for all, because there might be young up-and-comers that have great ideas and can bring new products to our industry and change the trajectory of some kind of things. And if our industry isn't thriving and healthy, there's no room for that. So short answer, market expansion creates a healthy industry so that we can all keep doing what we do.
We love that. And Steve, I know you have a couple of thoughts as well to share.
Yeah, similar. I look at it from the commercial side. If the industry is not growing, then it's a market share game, and it's a lot less fun to compete in a market share game in a industry that is flat or not growing. And then the other thing is, if the industry is also healthy, we get a bigger share of wallet, because people are definitely coming to us. If it's not growing, share of wallet becomes an issue, and share of wallet, now you're not just competing with each other, you're competing with different industries and other priorities for people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And Corey, I know we're kind of all preaching to the choir. We're all riders. We all really love it, but there are some folks that really want to try riding, but they don't end up doing so. Why is that?
Well, I think Andre's information is a really a great example of that. There's plenty of folks that are inspired by the idea. You see a motorcycle, you have a friend, a family member, something about motorcycling. When you first saw a bike, it just clicked and you thought, boy, that's something I'd like to do sometime. And maybe you even explored it. But the reality is it's really hard to actually have that experience and be guided through that experience. So, your neighbor might think it's great that you ride motorcycles. And when they come over and say, hey, I see you've got that new GS 13,000, blah, blah, blah. Can I take it for a ride? Well, of course, the answer is no. There's an appropriate way to learn about this. And so really, that's where the MSF fits in so well. The MSF was created over 50 years ago with the idea of motorcycling was something that was getting more and more popular, and there needed to be a common way to teach people, to help folks learn the basics, to help folks learn and earn a license, all of those things. So that's really what we've seen with our research is we're able to go in and take people that have an interest. According to our data, people that are showing up to these ride day events that we've been doing, a massive amount of them, 73%, are saying the biggest thing that is stopping me from, or that has stopped me from trying a motorcycle, is the fact that I didn't have access to a motorcycle, the gear, a coach, any of those different elements that come in place. And of course, that being the appropriate motorcycle, a helmet that fits right. Giving somebody a first experience, but putting them in a helmet that fits like a large soup bowl doesn't do them any good. So having all of that stuff there to be able to make sure that the first time you put a motorcycle helmet on, it's pleasant and it's a nice helmet like that. Those little things make a big difference. We see that the majority of people that come to these events, it's a 20-ish% that have wanted to try a bike for only a year. The rest of the attendees, so over 75%, are saying it's been a long time that I've thought about this, and I'm just looking for that ability to go and do it. And so I think that's where a lot of that starts to really come in, is just making that available for folks to come and realize there's a right way to go about our activity. Talk to anybody in the industry, any of us that are enthusiasts, and if we personally don't have a little bit of a gnarly first time story, we certainly know people that do. And so we're here to be able to fix that and make sure that when you move on to that engage part, it's a positive and wants you to continue to move forward down the chart that Andre was talking about.
Yeah, exactly. And looking at this, 41% of people have wanted to ride for as long as they can remember. So Corey, how do we remove those barriers?
Well, I think there's a lot of ways of going about it. I mean, first and foremost, through the MSF, there are 2,000 ranges that are around the country. So these are businesses that are a little bit of a shadow business, if you will. You know where your local motorcycle shop is because there's a big neon sign that says, I sell these motorcycles. They're retail locations. Motorcycle ranges are more an on-demand use. So there could be one, in the parking lot, next to a place you go all the time, but it's just some painted lines on the parking lot. You don't actually see it. There's no sign that says motorcycle training here. In most cases, obviously there's always exceptions. Some dealers have training, that sort of stuff, but just having more awareness as to where this is happening. What we started to realize as we saw what was happening with introductory events that Andre spoke of, going out and doing these where it was a little bit of a surprise, like, oh, I'm at Overland Expo and I can try a bike, that's rad. We started looking at, well, we have these ranges that already exist. Can we do something there where we can have, where we can create more of an open house? Currently, if you interact with the MSF, you sign up for a class in advance. In most cases, you take an e-course. So you've got, a couple hours of coursework that you're doing before you ever show up. Then you show up on the day of your training, and there's normally 2 days on motorcycle, but that's the first time that you're getting a chance to put a leg over a bike. That's the first chance that you're getting to see, and now you're in a situation where you're going to be graded. And so there's a little bit of tension that is added. The idea with an open house and what we do with these events is it's 20 minutes. We take you from sign up to putting on the gear, walking you through. It's a coach one-on-one on an appropriate sized motorcycle, and we get you riding and having a good time. So, I mean, as you can see from the images, I mean, it's just people have a really good time. It brings a lot of smiles. To Andre's point, same thing. I mean, you literally, people walk out 2 inches taller than what they walked in. Folks have overthought so much of motorcycling, and when you can actually get with them and work on them one-on-one, look them eye to eye, it's amazing the differences that it makes.
Yeah, for sure. The smiles, and plus everyone looks so cool on a motorcycle. Andre, I wanted to get your thoughts on removing barriers for folks.
Sure. As mentioned, I'm a firm believer in going huge on the inspire side so that they start to remove the barriers they're set themselves, but that may not always be true for everyone. So again, kind of hitting on everything Corey said, access is probably huge. And something that I was thinking about when Corey was answering that previous question of people, why have people they've wanted to try but they haven't. I found in my life it was a matter of normalization. When I started wanting to ride as a teenager, no one in my family did. So one was like, oh, we're just not motorcycle people. And that's actually similar to what Larry found in the study that he did, is people were like, oh, I'm not a motorcycle person, and people like me don't ride. And it just wasn't normal in their world. It was this aspirational thing over there that they could admit was cool, but it just wasn't in their orbit. So I think kind of getting motorcycling in front of as many people as possible and showing them that people like you do ride. It isn't one specific type of person, which again, the study said they kind of view motorcycles as this kind of badass figure that's kind of intimidating and scary. We need to show them that's not necessarily true. Like, we're cool, we're laid back, we're encouraging, and we're welcoming. So I think showing that side of it, of motorcycling, who we are, and then providing that access. So once it starts to be normalized in their world, they're inspired and they're like, hey, maybe this actually is for me. Having a solution where they can get the access that Corey spoke of, it smooths out the barriers massively, and it just starts to paint a different picture. And I think the industry as a whole is doing a good job of starting to change that and head towards this direction we're talking about.
Love that. Steve, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, we've done a bit of research on the barriers to entry. We found basically 3 that hold most people back. One is they don't really know how to get started, but we've been talking about the access piece. 2 is safety, and then 3 is they don't really know if there's a community for them to ride with afterwards. We're trying to hit all of them, but we're definitely leaning into the safety piece. Safety has been a big thing for Komodo. 2 years ago, we started the Airbag Save campaign because what we found was most people don't know about this technology, and secondarily, the people who support their riding definitely don't know about it. So we wanted to create much more awareness around airbags, and what it led to was a really, really great outcome, not just from a sales standpoint, but just from an awareness and a protection standpoint. We came back last year, we did it again, and then we added helmet technology alongside of it. And then we're going to do it again this year, and now we're going to start to add abrasion resistance. And I think the industry, safety is important to the industry, but I also think there's an unwritten mantra that says, don't talk about safety too much because we don't want people to feel like it's a risky endeavor. It is a risky endeavor, but safety has come so far on the bikes, on the gear, to create that awareness and hit it head on that we found has been a very good formula to overcome objections.
Wow. And Steve, what are the generational differences that you found, and are we marketing correctly as an industry?
Yeah, this is an interesting one. We actually spent a lot of time with Gen Z and just taking a look at that generation, which is really the 14 to 29-year-olds, right? The people who are about to get their license, or the kind of they're just eligible and they're young, and they actually are starting to gain a little bit of money. But there's a lot going on in this generation that is a lot different than marketing to boomers or Gen Xers or some of the older folks that we've been marketing to for a long time. They are, and everyone's heard about anxiety with this generation. It's not just anxiety, it comes from the phone use and everything like that. There's a lot of economic anxiety. There's a stat out there that says 90% of Gen Zers want to own a home, but less than 60% believe they'll actually be able to afford it. There's other things going on with the phones, digital detox and brain rot reversal. So they're very aware of what's going on with phones and the fact that it's taking up a lot of their time, and they actually want to go in a different direction. Brain rot is the word they use to talk about kind of getting away from the screen. They're also called the vibe economy because they want authentic. They want things that vibe with them, and they have really high BS detectors. They're thrifty, but they will spend with their values. So I have 4 kids, and they're all in this generation, and they fit a lot of this. My son, who is 23, is a cheapo with most everything, but he's been to Europe twice. I haven't been, I wasn't to Europe until I was well into my 30s, but he saved money, and it's something that he cares about, so he'll spend there, and that generation does that. They're definitely experience oriented versus just kind of collecting stuff. And the other thing that's interesting is they want a sense of competency. What that means is if you think about it, a lot of these kids have been raised on the screen, and they're not like generations, older generations, where they were doing things, whether it was, you know, we're in the scouts and getting merit badges or being taught how to do things. There's a lot less agency and competency, but they're looking for that. Like, they want that. They're actually aware of that too. And then one of the biggest things is they engage in things in packs, probably more so than any generation. If you have kids in this generation, they're on their phones all the time, and they're not just doom scrolling, they're talking to each other. Like, the idea of group chats, they're constantly talking to each other and planning to do things together, but it's very community oriented.
Oh.
So then that goes to kind of, what do we do to talk to this generation? And I think one of the biggest things is around the messaging about riding, right? The idea that this level of anxiety, I think it breeds a message that says, hey, riding is a way for you to get away from the anxiety. It's a way for you to get throttle therapy. It's a way for you to get that reversal of brain rot and kind of go out and do something that's very cool. And then the idea of creating events or seminars or things like that, so they can go experience the bikes or learn about. So that gives them that agency that they're looking for, and that understanding they're looking for. I think as an industry, we need to be more inviting to groups, because they are coming in packs. Andre was talking about the ride days and the experience of the moto intros. You can see people coming. There might be 4 coming to try this. You can see who's the leader, who like thought this was a great idea, and then the 2 people were like, yeah, okay, we'll do this. And then there's one that's scared to death, and they've clearly roped that person in. But in the end, they are all so psyched, and they're all so happy to do this. So being able to have an event and have the events be inviting to groups is definitely an important piece. And then making things visible to new riders. We're going to talk about in a little bit, but the idea of addressing people who are ride curious or new riders in anything that you do is really, really important. And I see it. I go to a lot of dealership websites and everything like that, and there's nothing about new riders. There's nothing about education. And I think you have to call it out to make sure that people see it. And then lastly, I just talked about hitting safety head on, but I think for that generation, it's really important because it is something that they're concerned about.
Andre, do you have anything to add to that?
I mean, Steve did a great job of telling us what's going on there, but yeah, I concur. The new generation, the younger generation, is definitely looking for experience and community over an item. It's not so much about the machine as it is about the experiences in the community that the machine allows you to access. So I think traditionally marketing in our industry has been very product centric, and I do think a shift is coming where we're getting more about the community, we're getting more about the experience, but traditionally it's been very tech oriented. And I read a cool paper about the surf industry recently, actually, and it said 1 in 20 surfers is what you would call a core surfer. That person is buying the latest surfboards with the newest fin setup, and they've got 4 surfboards in a bag on a trip to the Maldives. They're core surfers. That means the other 19 or 95% of surfers are in the game for the lifestyle and the experiences of the tropical islands and the boat trip. And that's essentially where all the money in the surf industry is made. It's made in the peripherals that you wouldn't call the core surfers, that are there for experience and community. And I would probably suggest that's very similar in our industry. So I think it just comes down to being mindful with the marketing. We do have a lot of cool products with a lot of cool technology, and there is a group of people out there that want to see that. But I would suggest that the masses want to see what that product can unlock for them. So I do think there is a shift changing in the last few years. People have started to cotton on to that, and I think we need to keep it going. Be more about marketing the lifestyle and the experiences that a motorcycle can unlock for you rather than the motorcycle itself.
And Corey, as far as generational differences and marketing correctly to them, what's MSF's perspective?
Sure. 100% agree with both Steve and Andre. And with the ride days that we've produced, we started producing these back in 22. We've had well over 5,000 people now go through this. And so we've had a chance to watch this. And Steve's example of the 4 Gen Zers and kind of the dynamics of the group, spot on, seen it 100 times at this point. What's been interesting to me is the younger, they come in packs, they come in groups. It's a big group. Gen X, Gens otherwise, there's still a psychographic attachment to motorcycling. There's something about motorcycling that fits your psychographic makeup. And so we see them tend to come in couples. And so literally it'll be first couple that I ever interacted with at the first ride day that we did at an MSF range was I would say mid 40s. It was in Colorado, very active. He had ridden since he was a kid. She had ridden on the back for quite a bit, had always wanted to try. And wasn't sure she could do it. We walked her through it within 30 minutes. Again, that 2 inches taller, just super excited. So, and even to the point where we've had recent retirees show up and say, we bought a motorhome and we want 2 motorcycles and this is how we want to spend our golden years, which is great. Like, let's give you this experience. So I think not only is it speaking to the different generations, but also speaking to the core of what makes motorcycling exciting. It's that mechanical movement. It's that, cutting through the air. It's the freedom. It's all the things that sometimes in the industry we almost get tired of hearing, but that is the exhilarating thing. Andre brought up the technical side. So often when you're in the industry, you get attracted to the latest whiz bang performance element. Well, look at what's happening with mini motos. Look at what's happening with little motorcycles. You can have so much fun on a little 125, just mini motorcycle. I'm huge and look ridiculous on them, but they're so much fun to ride. And so, all of that stuff is really just part of the enthusiasm that we see. We do obviously track folks that come in. We're seeing, an average age coming down significantly that comes to ride days from what the industry average is, down, I think, almost 15 years from industry average. We're seeing an almost equal split between male and female participants. So again, these welcoming introductory activities really do kind of cut through a lot of that and speak to that generation, to all the different generations, excuse me.
Yeah, thanks, Corey. And Andre, to Corey's welcoming point that he just gave us, what do you think as an industry that we can do collectively to bring in more riders?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure what the steps are to achieving this. I think it's underway, but I think creating an industry, turning our industry into a welcoming and encouraging community. And we knew that there was some kind of issue way back when we did our study, and it said, oh, motorcycle communities are intimidating, they're hard to crack into, and they're hard asses. So it's like, yeah, I can see that, but I think it's starting to swing recently in the last few years, and I think it's applicable. If you're at AIM Expo, you could feel a buzz on the floor of people just vibing. And Steve spoke about the vibe economy, and Steve spoke about Gen Z's want community. So I'm like, okay, well, our industry behind closed doors at our trade show is full of energy. There's high fives and back slaps. We are vibing. How do we show this to the outside world so that they now see the motorcycle industry and the motorcycle community as welcoming, encouraging, having a good time, willing to help? So yeah, I'm not sure what the exact steps are to achieving it. I think my advice would be keep going. We're getting it right. Let's just show more people, but turning the industry into a welcoming, encouraging place where people will be like, I want to be part of that. And it doesn't look scary whatsoever to approach them to see how do I become a part of it. And yeah, I think there's a lot of events that are popping up around this. And I keep referencing Babes Ride Out because it's a great example. There was a need for what they do, and it's a raging success, and it's great. And people come to go to my wife included, goes to Babes Ride Out events every year. And our manufacturers are creating more entry-level motorcycles to help lower the barrier. So I think for the most part, everyone in their specific vertical is starting to do the right thing, and we're all working together to do it. It's now just, how do we show everyone that? And I think the answer is just keep going, and it will reveal itself to everyone. And I think we'll attract and retain a lot more people, and especially from these different generations that require a different set of circumstances to join us. We're now starting to cater to that. And yeah, I think we're on the right path. Keep going.
Love that. Steve, to Andre's point, how do we as an industry show everyone that we're coming together?
Yeah, I think one of the things that you have to do if you're speaking to the consumer in any way directly, you have to let them know that if they're new or if they're thinking about riding, it's accessible, right? So they research. Yeah, I think that one of the other differences with the younger folks is they have the ability to do tons and tons of research before they walk into a dealership, before they start to think about buying anything. So what we've done is we've addressed that kind of in all of our websites. If you click the menu bar and take a look at the new rider section, there you go. So we've created new rider sections on all of our sites, and essentially what that is for is just it's a place to show content and education about riding, the basics things they need to know, the basic gear they have to get, a place to find routes, to measure your helmet correctly, to find a community you ride with. All these things are top of mind for someone who just got their license and is thinking about, okay, well, what does the community look like that I have to that I want to engage myself with? If you go back up to the top of that page, the other piece that we do is we talk about if you don't have your license yet, right? Like, so if you're thinking about riding, this is where we tie in closely with Ride With Us. This is really a repository to say, hey, what do you need to do? Like the people who are trying to figure things out, like we have info on licensing. We have a finder on that first link. You don't have to click it, but it basically tells you by state what you need to do to get licensed. We try to hook people up with MSF ranges. We talk about your first ride, so you have ride days. And then we created a series, and you can stop right there. We created a series of video pieces for Ride With Us that talk about, why riding is fun, about safety of riding, the types of bikes that are out there, the basics of riding, all the things, like even something as simple as understanding what the clutch is and trying to demystify it, what your beginning gear is. All of these things, they're all 2.5 minute videos, but they're branded Ride With Us, and really anyone can use these. But these videos are meant to, take away that trepidation for someone who's spending time and researching it. So to me, as an industry, like I said, whether you're a dealer, whether you're an OEM, if you have any point of contact with the consumer, you should say, if you're thinking about riding, click here and get more information. That'll really take away or help take away all those objections that we were talking about earlier, and that'll ultimately lead to more people feeling good about trying it out.
Andre,
Quick on the, if I can just jump in, like that's a great example of what Steve just showed there about how we work together to make that content, and I think that is a really key point of like the industry working together there. And the thing that I like about that is we're starting to say the same things. Whereas I feel like you can ask probably 5 different established motorcyclists, like, hey, what should I do? And you're probably going to get 5 different answers. So as an industry, we're starting to work together with these initiatives, and we're all starting to say the same thing. So I think that consistency in messaging from key players within the industry, and then hopefully it filters down through everyone else, but the consistency in messaging, I think, is going to help people that are interested, because when they start asking questions, they start getting the same answers, and then it becomes very apparent that, oh, this is the direction to go, rather than I got 3 different options from 3 different people, and I don't know which one's right. So I think that collaboration we did there is a killer example, and we hope to continue to do it. Sorry, Corey, carry on.
Corey, what do you think? Thank you, Andre.
I think that's a great point, Andre, and that's exactly giving people that path. Again and again, we see, I'm excited, but what do I do next? I've heard from people that complete a entire MSF class, earn their license, and they stop there because they don't know what to do next. They haven't found that community, they haven't found that mentor, they haven't found that way to continue going. So I think that's a really good point. Lee, if you could show the ride day slides, where they have been, where they're going. We've been doing this since 2022 is when we started piloting events. We've done 199 events in 29 states. Over 5,000 people have taken a first ride. This year in 2026, we're aiming to produce 75 different events. We currently have 45 of them already on the books. Those are you can already find those on the MSF site. We want to be in 30 to 35 different states, and we're hoping to have over 4,200 people come and take a ride. And the whole idea behind that is, again, just to sort of bridge that, make it available. What can the industry do? I'm amazed how many times I'll talk to a dealer and they'll ask me questions about, well, how do I connect? And my first question is, well, who's your local motorcycle range? Oh, I don't know. Well, look it up. There's a zip finder on our website. You can find ranges near you. For ranges, for people from the MSF that might be watching this, are you connecting with your local dealer? What are the different tools? What are the different things out there that you can do to bring those groups together? So, we have a lot of assets. This looks at our consumer program landing page, where you can go and click and find. Every event has its own landing page. We do a 100-mile radius social media campaign that the MSF sponsors, and that drives people to these event pages so they can find it. The last little thing on the provider coach assets is we've got logos, we've got ad builders, social post builders, all of those things exist and are available for people to use. So really getting folks to work together in the industry. Obviously, all of us work on more of a national level. We can't directly manage what might be happening in a certain space. And so my example on this is there's a place called Sunday Service Motor Company. It's a coffee shop in Albuquerque, New Mexico. We were there putting together a ride day. We wanted a good cup of coffee. Somebody recommended this place. We walk in, rad place, super good coffee, motorcycle stuff everywhere. End up meeting the owner, motorcycle rider. Tell him what we're doing. He's like, oh my gosh, I've got 3 employees that have been wanting to try a motorcycle. Can they come down? They came down the next day. Went, had an absolute blast. The day after that, 10 different people that I talked to referenced, oh, I was getting a cup of coffee and they told me about this thing and they had to come. So when we're talking about how do we explain or how do we expand this on a local level, don't just think the motorcycle businesses that are out there. What are the other businesses that cater to it? All of us that are enthusiasts understand how it seeps into other parts of our lives. In this case, the dude's coffee shop was just sort of this motorcycle mecca. And as a result, motorcycle people went there to get cups of coffee. And so it's just another example of, being heads up, looking around and saying, what are the solutions? I think we are starting to take the right steps. It's moving in the right direction. To Andre's point, it's a matter of just connecting all the folks around that can all help. Because if we're all pulling in the same direction, it's going to move a lot quicker than each of us kind of trying to do our own little thing.
Yeah, for sure, Corey. And Andre, so to Corey's point, he just mentioned dealers. What are some of the actionable steps for dealers to change their trajectory?
Sure, I think it's possibly and there are examples of dealers who do a great job with this, by the way, but I think a change of perspective might be beneficial. And I think what I'm referencing there is see yourself as somewhat of a mentor, a figure that's going to help usher whoever you're speaking to into this community and keeping there. Take the relationship from transactional and make it more of a relationship of stewardship. And I think what I'm saying there is in all of your communications, everything you do, consider making a motorcyclist rather than a sale. One of those things feels warm and inviting. The other one feels kind of cold and off-putting. And yes, we realize that we need to make revenue in order to keep our business open. But I think there is a long play to be made in making motorcyclists rather than sales and turning your dealership into a community hub, much like what Corey just said there about this coffee shop being like a community hub for these motorcycle-centric people. That's what our dealerships are. Our dealerships are the community hubs where would-be motorcyclists or current motorcyclists go to access the tools they need to live their dreams or live their experiences that they're chasing and keep their lifestyle going. So I think if you're not thinking of yourself in that way, and I think this goes for any company that exists in our space, if you're not thinking of yourself as an enabler, a steward of the sport, a mentor, change that perspective and go like, okay, that's my role. I am somewhat of an elder in this game, and it's my duty to bring these people in the most smooth, seamless way possible and make things easy for them and kind of help them cut through any intimidation or nerves they may have, because from our study, we know that does exist. And yeah, I guess, like I said, consider making motorcyclists rather than sales, and consider that you're a community hub that enables dreams and lifestyles rather than be a showroom.
Steve, do you have any advice for dealers?
Yeah, I have an easy one and a harder one. The easy one is put something on your website for new riders. just so they can see it. They know that you're thinking about people who are curious about riding or new to riding, and you can give them some of the basic information that they want to know before they even walk into dealership. I think the harder one is if you can facilitate hosting a ride day, do it, or any kind of an event or educational event where you can get people who are thinking about it into your facility, and then market it. I mean, that's a little bit harder to do, but it'll work.
Okay. And Corey, how can dealers use MSF as a resource?
Well, obviously understanding who your local ranges are, where are the places around you where people can get trained and become a rider. Always very key. I know that's not always easy to do because they have their schedule and trying to sync those things. But I would also go back a little bit to what both Steve and Andre said. And I love what we're doing online. I love that we have this storytelling, but think of how easy it is to sort of ruin all of that. So now I've watched the videos, I'm excited, and I've learned some basic things, and I walk into a dealership and they instantly are talking way above my head, and I have no idea what's going on. I've watched people, somebody is shopping for their first helmet, and the counter person just hands them a helmet and say, put it on. Well, how would they know how to put a helmet on? They've never put a helmet on before. And so now this poor person is, ripping off their own ears because they don't realize that you need to pinch and open it and then slide it on. And it's just a simple little thing like that you can do, that you've now educated me. You've now made me aware of how to put a helmet on and not look like a dork. That's all meaningful. And so with your interaction with new riders, always be willing to bring it down. We can geek about moto and super bikes and MotoGP and all of that sort of stuff. But to somebody who doesn't know, for somebody who's trying to get into this, that can very easily be way over their head, and it just becomes another obstacle. Well, geez, I'm never going to know that stuff. I'm not going to fit into this community. None of us like to go into a situation and feel like a poser or that sort of thing. And so really bringing that down is a great way of doing it. And that's also, what taking a full, like a basic rider course from the MSF does a lot for you, is it gives you 2 days with other people that are in the same spot as you are. They're just starting. I hear some wonderful stories about people that meet at an MSF course and become friends for a long time. I think last year we did a story on a couple that met and ended up getting married, through the MSF. So, not that we're going to start doing weddings anytime soon, but we're open to the idea. So, there's lots of different things like that just make it more welcoming and allow it to become a community-based effort.
And I'm an ordained minister, just in case anyone needs that service.
Sounds like a reality show.
Oh my goodness. Well, gentlemen, we have reached the question and answer portion of our symposium. And so I'm very excited to bring in Andrea. She has some questions that she is going to be asking you that our audience submitted.
Yes, hi Brett, hi everyone. We actually have over 50 questions, so obviously everyone's been super engaged. We won't be able to get to them all today, but let me try to start with some that may have not been quite addressed yet. This one will be good for Andre, actually. How do you inspire non-riders other than getting them to an event or putting them on a practice range?
So we lean heavily into content. I actually know a few riders who, like adult riders who started after just going down a YouTube hole and just seeing people creating this really cool content. Examples are like an event, they watch an adventure bike movie of someone who did a BDR and they're like, I have to do this. So we know that content is such a key player right now and does a lot for inspiring people. And like, this is where I'll hop on about inspire them to no end and they'll remove all their barriers on their own. Like I said, I personally know people who have done that. So inspire is what we do, and how we do that is through the content. We create content with various different people, various different bikes, and we kind of just put it out there and show people. And I think like our tagline is, what does a motorcycle rider look like? Exactly like you. It helps us debunk that thing that people like me don't ride. So the content play is how we inspire people so that they see an experience, which again is really relevant for the younger generations. They see an experience that they simply just have to do, and then hopefully they move themselves on to the other phases and go and live that moment that they saw someone else do that they really wanted.
And you also had a couple giveaways, right, that were really popular?
We did. We worked with a few of our manufacturers. First and foremost, we created a piece of content around the specific unit, and we showed that unit in the real world, living its life, just on a dreamy type of ride. And then we went on to actually give that unit away. And when we did that, each time we had the first giveaway, I think it was like 17,000 people opted in to win that unit, and then the second one I think was around 12,000 people. It was in the winter, so it was a little bit down. But yeah, we inspired them with a piece of content and then told them you can actually win this motorcycle. And you might be thinking, well, how does that help the industry if we're giving away motorcycles? What we bolted onto that was a nurture path. So when they entered the competition, they had to tell us what level of rider they were at. They were new, or they were existing, or they were lapsed, and we gathered some information from them as well as where their location was, so that once the giveaway was done, we obviously announced, cool, you didn't win or whatever. We then set them out on an automated email nurture track, and that then provided, based on what experience level they said they were in, we set out a number of emails that then kind of nudged them onto the next step. So if they were a total beginner, it was like, hey, cool, look at some of these potential ways to get into motorcycling, and then nudge them along via a course of emails that dropped in their inbox every week. And it kind of promoted community, it promoted the resources, so that if they just entered on a whim, a week later, they're going to get reminded, oh yeah, I did want to do that. And then here's the next step. And it kind of just drip fed them the resource all the way through. And then ultimately at the end, because we know where they are, and we have quite a substantial dealer network database, we have actually provided them like an email that has at the bottom, it says something along the lines of, ready to take the next step, here is your nearest local dealer, so that they can then go on and do it. So it was a multi-pronged attack, if you will. It was to create content to inspire. It was to enable one lucky person to just get in the game and do it. We're actually handing over the keys to our second giveaway this Saturday. And then the final part was the tens of thousands of people that have filled in the entry form are going to get drip fed the steps to becoming a motorcyclist and hopefully convert.
Awesome. So again, that's the ridewithus.com for anyone who's curious about checking out that page. This feeds well into this next question. I think this is a good one for you, Steve. Someone said that my research shows people don't start riding because they see themselves as empowered. The number one motivator is someone else they admire or friends who ride. It's about being part of a community. What is being done to help current riders get new riders? And Steve, I was thinking about some of those Komodo events you had where a lot of friends bring their friends.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. It plays into the idea of people wanting to do things as a community. It's also, we found that most people at some point or another have thought about what it would be like to ride a motorcycle. So if we're leaning in, I mean, we're leaning into the ride days. We're going to do 10 more this year across the country, and we are going to advertise it and just let people know. Just the simple thing, just come to learn to ride a motorcycle in 20 minutes. It's free, it's easy. People see it. Maybe the one person who's like the one of the four that we talked about who's is a little gung-ho, and then the nature of the way things are today, they'll come and they'll rope in 3 or 4 friends. So 100% believe in that, and we're going to lean into it heavy this year.
Excellent. Corey, do you want to add anything to that, or?
Absolutely. No, I think, no doubt having a friend that brings you along is a big part of it. Again, on our post-event surveys, we ask about, well, who do you know? Cool aunt and uncles tend to be a really big trend. Like a lot of people will say, oh, well, my uncle rides, my aunt rides, and that's sort of their inspiration. And so absolutely, as current riders, as current enthusiasts, our current customers, talking to them about sharing this passion, sharing that is a big part of it. The hard thing is if they don't know what the steps are, well, by sharing, you mean I need to put them on my motorcycle and they've never ridden before. I don't know if I'm down with that. And so again, being able to point towards, events like this, what Komodo is doing with doing these ride days at stores. They're doing some ride days at bigger overall events. I think one's a drag race, Steve. I think another one is a motorcycle race.
Yeah, we're going to do one at the NHRA event in Charlotte this summer, it should be super interesting.
And that stuff is great. Like being able to go and do activations at places like that where you already know that you have an audience that has an interest in mechanical things and all of that, and being able to let them have that first sense of freedom. And then of course, most importantly to the MSF is we're able to follow up and then make sure that, hey, your next step is going and taking proper training and learning how to do this the right way. It just benefits all of us. So, cannot overemphasize the importance of, being able to mentor sort of those people in your life that are interested in being able to give them the right advice and set them on the right path.
You know what, there's actually one other thing. We didn't talk about this earlier around the moto intros and the ride days, is the types of people that are coming. It was almost 50% women, and it was more than 50% were under 35. So that crowd is actually thinking about this. It's just how we get out and touch them and inspire them to come in.
And I think I'll throw in there as well. I think whoever asked the question is completely correct. It is vastly through community that we grow in numbers. So that just points out how important it is that our community is a healthy and encouraging one that removes any kind of intimidation, so that we know that's the most attractive part of what we do is our community. So make it a strong one.
So actually, Steve, you mentioned too the gender and then the ages. I thought this was interesting. Someone, Corey, maybe you can expand a little bit more on this, but someone had mentioned when we showed the stats that 41% are generally, the 41% I think had wanted to ride all their lives. Were they generally the older public who just kind of reference a bucket list?
With the data, I can't necessarily go back and look at individual demographics to that group. I look at it more of an attitude. When they think about motorcycling, it's something that has always sort of been there. I think there are certain activities, certain foods, certain things like that just you look at it and you instantly know, I think that's for me. And it's just a matter of the ability to actually try it. And so I think it speaks more to the fact that just motorcycling in general is something that people find attractive and enticing, but the ability to actually go and engage with it is pretty convoluted, or has been in the past. And I think that's what all of this is about knocking down.
Yes, and actually there's another one here, a great question. Open to any of you. How do the ride days work? Do they come to dealerships? And if so, is there a charge for this?
I can take that one. So we're actually in the midst of updating a lot of what we're trying to look at and how we're going about this. From the MSS perspective, traditionally, these have always been something that we do at a current recognized MSF range. So that's the place where you go and you take your BRC, that sort of thing. The people that give you the on motorcycle experience are certified MSF coaches. And it's using a training motorcycle, so an appropriate sized motorcycle. A lot of times there'll be different types of models and stuff, which is always fun when you have that ability to offer somebody, a cruiser versus something that maybe is a little more naked looking, that sort of thing. And then of course, having all the gear. So moving forward, we are looking at how we can partner with people, in different models to be able to do it. So like the 10 events that Steve mentioned, those are things that are the MSF will be supplying the team to help do the on motorcycle stuff, but Steve's team will be working more with the logistics, the setting the place up, where it's at, even a lot more of the marketing. Traditionally, we do the marketing, MSF does the marketing nationally for a local range. Steve's team is taking more of that on. So we're open to looking at more elements. We're actually working on a guide right now to be able to identify spaces that are appropriate for this. Obviously, number one is safety, and so we want to make sure that we have the ability to offer this experience in a place that is going to be as appropriate as possible for people doing it. So sorry, it's not a super direct answer, but yes, we are here to help. We'd love to chat with you if you have an interest in it. These events are something that cost ranges money to do, so that's another way to look at is how can we all work together to help offset some of those costs if we all can benefit from it.
Just to expand, as a group that ran them, you need a footprint, right? If it's not at a range and you're doing this, you need, I think it's 100 by 100 footprint. You need some tents to basically hold the product. You need a registration table because people come in, they sign a waiver. We don't charge them anything for it. We typically have some coffee and donuts when they come, just so it's a welcoming atmosphere. You're going to need a small fleet of bikes. I think you typically need 5 or 6 small displacement bikes, and then just people around to talk to people while they're waiting to go. It's not overly complex. You just have to know that you're going to have ebbs and flows in traffic of people that come in. It's not like constant. Sometimes people have to wait. Sometimes you're waiting for them. Not super complex, but it's a good environment, and definitely I will say universally, the people that take them, everyone who finishes is super stoked.
Andre, do you want to add anything to that, or should people contact you or Corey? Or
I think Corey right now is the ride day expert, but yeah, I think there is a desire for this program to be scaled up. And there has been discussions in various meetings about how do we execute these on a dealership level. But yeah, as Steve mentioned, there is a criteria you need to satisfy. You need the space and then the safety infrastructure and obviously the equipment. But as Corey mentioned, it is a work in progress because the dream state would be to just simply say yes to this question. Let's do it. We're just working out how right now.
so I think we have time for one more quick question. I think, Corey, this one's really slated for you. How can we change the culture of once you're licensed that no further training is required? And I was thinking of that cool little social media challenge you and
That's a great question, and it really it is interesting how oftentimes training is looked at as sort of this door that you go through, and it's like, okay, well, I got my license, I know everything, and yet in so many other activities, we train, we practice, and so trying to bring that up. Recently, the MSF we put together a bunch of animations that are do-it-yourself drills, and so these are simple things that you can download. They're very mobile friendly, so you can work it off of your phone. And we did a social media challenge to encourage people to go out. Steve and his team was actually kind enough to supply helmets and some prizes for that. And it was interesting to actually encourage folks to don't just hop on your bike and go for a ride. Go and go to a parking lot, go to a place that is appropriate, set some cups, some markers out, something, and practice your skills. With that, hopefully people begin to learn, hey, I'm not quite as good as I thought I was, or I could do these maneuvers on a little training motorcycle, but now that I'm on my own bike, it's a little bit bigger, I'm not quite as agile. And with that, always pointing back towards there's advanced training available through the MSF. We live in a wonderful age where there's so much other training available, groups like USMCA and the amount of coaching that's available. People, whatever your fantasy is, whatever that inspiration was, Andre talked earlier about, maybe it was a big adventure bike ride. Well, there are adventure schools that are just teaching techniques for riding big motorcycles off-road, track days, flat track schools, moto schools. Like, there's so much great stuff out there, and really encouraging people to look at all of the different things that allow you to continue to develop your skills, in my mind is a thing that we really have to work as a group to make sure there's more and more awareness that there's always more to learn, there's always something more you can do on your motorcycle.
all right, Loretta, I'll let you wrap it up.
Well, a very big thank you to everyone that has tuned in. Thank you to everyone at the MIC. And Andre, Steve, and Corey, thank you very much for all of your insight, for all of your help. Andrea and Lee, you guys are incredible. And so with that has ended our symposium. So I'm going to turn it over to Lee to close us out.
Thanks, Lorette, and great job, panelists. Thank you so much for taking the time to contribute to today's webinar. We hope you enjoyed today's session. Before you sign off, a couple of important notes. If you're not already a member of your industry's association, please consider joining the Motorcycle Industry Council today. When you do, you'll be a stakeholder in the evolving powersports industry, and you'll gain access to valuable information to help you grow your business and network with industry leaders. And make sure you're signed up for the MIC's free newsletter the MIC Ride Report, arriving in your inbox every week and covering the industry issues that we all care about. And save the date for our next symposium, Thursday, April 9 at 10 a.m. Pacific, free for MIC members and $50 for non-members, in which our government relations team will talk about state laws and bills on recycling batteries and the implications for our industry. You can keep an eye out for information on upcoming symposiums at micsymposium.com. Well, that's it. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a great day.